Today on the Ever Onward podcast, we have Mayor Wagner from the city of Caldwell. Caldwell is exploding with growth. He is in his first term, fourth year of his first term. It's going to be really great to catch up with him and hear about all of the exciting things happening in Caldwell, Idaho. He grew up in Caldwell, worked at ACHD, then the city of Caldwell. He was in the legislature, so just an incredible history before becoming mayor 4 years ago. It'll be fun to catch up with him and talk about all the wonderful things happening in Caldwell. Before Mayor comes on today, we're going to hear from Kakoa Nawahini and Mark Cleverly, and they're ironically going to talk about Caldwell, our Project North Ranch. So first, Kakoa and Mark, and then Mayor Wagner.
Good morning. Mark Cleverly, Chief Leasing Officer with Ahlquist. I'm here with Kakoa.
Yeah, Kakoa Nawahini, also on the leasing team.
We thought it'd be good to just take a quick minute and review North Ranch, just because it's a project that we bought 4 or 5 years ago and always thought it was going to be a 10-year project. And we're down to the last 5 acres that you have under contract. We'll talk about that in a minute. But just a little bit of history of North Ranch. This was a site that St. Luke's had purchased. They were going to put their Canyon County Hospital out there. I remember at TOK when I was there, that was a huge purchase back then, and St. Luke's came in. Everybody was excited that they were going to go out there, build that Canyon County Hospital. They sat on it for a long, long time, and then we ended up coming in 5 years ago and buying it from them for a good price. And the city of Caldwell was amazing when we were working with them. It was in their URD, Urban Renewal District, and city of Caldwell was great. And then fast forward 5 years and we're like out of space at North Ranch. So kind of walk through what has happened over the last few years out there.
Yeah, and it's been really cool to see kind of the evolution of Caldwell itself, starting back with Mayor Jarom and his vision for developing Caldwell into what it is today, and Stephen Jenkins and Mayor Wagner now continuing that, and just really business friendly to work with. And our whole experience with them out in North Ranch, that was one of my first projects when joining Ahlquist that I kind of got to get my
we're like, hey, go kill it out at North Ranch
and go jump in. And so, originally a little over 100 acres out there, and we're down to our last 4 acres that are under contract. And so it's been a really cool progression. Like you said, happened a lot faster than I think anyone was anticipating, which speaks a lot to the development of Caldwell, the expansion of Highway 2026, and just the access of the development where it's at. And one of the biggest groups out there and the relationship that we've really enjoyed developing is D&B Supply with their 100,000 square foot flagship store that they've got out there. We got a distribution, over 100,000 square foot distribution center out there, finishing up their corporate office, so it's really cool for them to be able to plant their flag in Caldwell in a big way where they started out. Yeah. And so some big anchor to that whole site. We got
huge for that site.
Yeah. So awesome, and what they do for the community, they're awesome. They're good guys. And then you got the Maverick gas station out there, a retail store that we've got 1 or 2 suites left. We got the Fat Guys Deli out there, which if you haven't been, probably
love
the best.
Fat Guys Deli.
Love Fat Guys Deli. Baskin Robbins just opened up. We've got a couple other leases that are going to start construction pretty soon, and just got 1 or 2 spaces left out there. And then we've got the VA Medical Hospital out there that finished up, Idaho Central Credit Union branch, Les Schwab's under construction right now and rolling. And then these last 4 acres we got under contract with the multifamily group. So working with the city right now to get that in there. But all of these uses coming together to be a really nice mixed use commercial project that also fits kind of what the city was envisioning for that area. And so crazy to have it all wrapped up in 4 to 5 years, but been awesome to work with Caldwell and ready to do our next project with them, hopefully.
It's a testament to these cities when they have a vision, and when Mayor Nancolis was amazing out in Caldwell for several years with the downtown of Caldwell, and then he was looking here off the interchange right there, and with the widening of Highway 2026 right there, and then looking, him having the vision of this is going to be an incredible site, right? And so it's great. It allows us to come in and kind of do our thing, but when we have the support of a city like Caldwell was supportive of this, it just makes our job that much easier, right? I mean, it's amazing, and you form a great relationship with them, and it's so fun working with these cities when they kind of have that vision and know what they want. It's been great.
100%. And I think if you go to some other jurisdictions or maybe some other states and you say, oh yeah, we took a over 100-acre piece and developed it in less than 5 years, I think they'll think you're crazy. But like you're saying, that's a testament to the team over at Caldwell and our team of being able to implement and turn vision into reality, and it's been really fun. And I think, like you had mentioned earlier, a big proponent of Marion Close's vision and ability to execute on it is the urban renewal district, and using that as a tool to help develop an area that is a great area but needed some work and needed these businesses and different mixed uses to come in and kind of transform that area. So we're excited.
Yeah. Love it. Well, we appreciate your hard work out there, man. It's been amazing to watch over the last 4 or 5 years.
It's been a great ride. It's been
great
fun.
Job.
Only getting started.
Good stuff.
Mayor, thanks for coming on. We've tried to get you for a while because we want to hear all the great stuff going on.
Yeah, super excited to be here. So yeah, it's great to be able to talk about Caldwell and just be here with you as well. So I'm excited.
Oh, this will be really fun. Hey, I want to start a little bit by just hearing a little bit about you, because I think a lot of people know you. You're moving and shaking, and I think you've got a lot of great things going on. But I want to start where it all began for you. And so if you tell us a little bit about growing up and a little bit about your background, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. So grew up when I was very young in eastern Idaho, born in Rexburg, lived in Pocatello, Idaho Falls. My dad was a banker. In that time, there's a lot of acquisitions going on with different banks, so we ended up moving a lot. And that's actually what ended up bringing my family to Caldwell. So I moved to Caldwell when I was 14 years old, 8th grade at Jefferson Junior High. My dad's bank had got bought out by Valley Bank, got bought out by Key Bank, and that brought him to Caldwell to manage the Key Bank branch in downtown. So that's where I attended junior high school, graduated from Caldwell High as well. Just loved the opportunity to grow up in Caldwell. It's an amazing community at the time. Growing into, and I'm sure we'll get into this, into just what nobody could have imagined at that time. Then graduated high school, ended up leaving the country for a couple of years, down to Chile, serving a mission for my church. Was able to learn Spanish, which has come in huge and helpful in Caldwell with the Hispanic community we have there. When I got home, I attended BYU, Idaho for a year or two, and then ended up in Arizona. I went to Arizona State University. Got my degree in business when I was there, and then met my wonderful wife while I was there also, got married, and then shortly thereafter moved back to Idaho. So she was born and raised in Tempe, Arizona, right just a stone's throw from ASU campus, but she loves the outdoors. The cold, not so much, but she loves the outdoors, and so was a pretty easy convince to get her up here.
It's that time of year, though. She's probably like, by the time we get to February, I'm just like, okay.
Yes, we're all there.
Unfortunately, we're still like months away from them, but that's cool. And how many kids do you have?
So 3. We have 3 boys.
Okay, great. How old are they?
So they are 17, 16, and 11. So we got a couple high schoolers and then a 6th grader.
Great ages.
Yep.
Great ages. And tell us a little bit about business up until you ran for mayor.
So like I said, I have a business degree on that, so I was able to utilize that. Did a little financial planning when I lived in Arizona before we moved back up here. And then really when I got up to Caldwell, just kind of looking at different options and what to do, and ended up with land use planning. So kind of went from financial planning to land use planning and worked for Canyon County as a planner there. ACHD did transportation planning for them. And then from there was recruited to come and work for Caldwell. Caldwell, actually. And so I was the senior planner for
Yep.
Caldwell for a number of years also. And actually, ACH Steves were the first time we met. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I
One of
do
your
remember that.
projects that you were working on when I worked there. And so that was a great opportunity. And it was really nice having the county, the transportation, the city really rounded me out as a planner.
Incredible background to be mayor.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of all the things a mayor does, CEO, basically the CEO of a city. So you're running the business of the city, the budgets of the cities, but also the planning of the city. So tremendous experience preparing you for what you're doing now.
Yeah, and it really has. And a lot of people ask, how do you become mayor and all of these different things? And I just say, it's the experience. It's just getting well-rounded in many different things. You have that understanding. And it really, God has a plan for all of us. And you never know really, why am I going this direction or that? And it really, all of it led to that culmination of being able to be where I'm at right now.
Hey, talk about, there's a lot of great people from Caldwell. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of people that just grew up, and you got these great stories about Caldwell and what it was, and then it kind of went through, I think most towns Caldwell size, when things changed from rail and just the way you drove through towns. I think a lot of Idaho and American towns kind of went through this, okay, what are we going to be? And then how are we coming out the other side? I think Caldwell is probably the shining example of coming out the other side. But what was it like growing up in Caldwell?
So it was great. It was a lot different when I was growing up in the mid '90s to what it is now. But I mean, it was still something to be proud of even then. And you talked a lot about, there's so much history in Caldwell that people do not realize. Several governors, from Caldwell, Frank Steunenberg, who was a governor, actually ended up being assassinated, unfortunately, back in the early 1900s. But they were great founders of the community, through, J.R. Simplot has ties to Caldwell. Joe Albersons has ties to Caldwell.
That's right.
So many of those great things. I remember this was years ago. I was sitting in a legislative meeting, and Butch Otter was governor at the time, and he was talking. He talked about Caldwell, and he talked about when he was born, his family was living in Farmway Village on the outskirts of Caldwell, and I had no idea. So you just never know who else is going to pop up.
We had him on. I think his podcast gets released very soon. I think next week. But most of the whole first half of it is Caldwell.
Yeah.
And the stories and him working in the plant. That was his first job for Simplot, and he tells some great stories. So, yeah, deep roots. And then there's some legacy stuff out there with the college, with the rodeo. There's just so many great people, and then great kind of Idaho. I mean, it is the heritage of Idaho is deep in Caldwell.
Yeah, no, it truly is. And like I said, it kind of, everything in life is so cyclical.
Yeah.
And Caldwell is a great example of that. Back in the heydays in the 50s, 60s, it was the place to be. The downtown was bustling, everything was happening. And then it kind of went into decay for a couple decades there. But now, again, it's that revitalization, that phoenix rising from the ashes. But like I said, some of those things that have really helped Caldwell, I think, maintain what they have is the College of Idaho is huge for Caldwell, the Caldwell Night Rodeo. So you have those elements that have been in Caldwell, regardless of what phase we are in that cycle. They've been stalwarts. CNR just celebrated their 100-year anniversary last year, which is just crazy to think about. One of the best outdoor rodeos in the country. They got some great improvements going on right now to make it even better.
Talk a little bit about those. I don't think people know, but there's quite a bit of change going on to upgrade the rodeo facility.
Yeah, and it's a really great story. I remember actually it was a couple of years ago. So it was at the 99th Caldwell Night Rodeo, and I was walking around. Obviously, I love to go and to be there, and ran into Ed Lodge and Rob Vavold. And Rob was the incoming president for that 100 year, and then Ed's actually the president for this year. And we just started kind of talking and brainstorming and saying, hey, what can we do to really make this just shine even more? And so we came up with some thoughts and ideas, and where the city could maybe get some money to put in towards it, and then also, and it really just shows the partnerships too that we have in Caldwell, that we're able to talk to them and be like, okay, we can put in, let's do a 50-50, try to get both sides. So it's not just the city putting money into this, but you come up with your money, we'll come up with ours, we'll meet in the middle. And they've way outshined what we did. So we had a max where we were going to go to meet them, and they've, I think, almost doubled what we were going to do. But it just shows that commitment, that partnership. And so, they're doing some new grandstands at the rodeo, new press box as well, which would be great. Randy Corley, when he comes back, he's one of the all-time great announcers in rodeo. He's going to have a nice place to sit this year, so it'll be much better than last year.
Is it going to be done by the time of the rodeo this year?
It will. Yep.
It will be.
So it will. So, and there's other phases we hope in the future, but this phase one for sure will be done.
When's the date for the rodeo this year?
So it is in mid-August.
Mid-August,
so,
right. Right. Well, it's a tradition for us, and We just love it. And the college, it's interesting because we have you on. I mean, we are very Caldwell centric. We had Jim Everett on.
Oh, he's amazing, Jim.
And talk. I mean, you look at his love for that community and what he's done at the college there, and then one of our big time, our close friends is Mark Schmidt with D&B, which is a great Caldwell company that, thanks to you, stayed in Caldwell. I mean, if you look at what happened at Sky Ranch and then North Ranch, and the ability to keep companies where they were grown is pretty cool. A lot of great heritage there.
Yeah, it is. And like all those names you just said are just fantastic people. And that's what I love too about Caldwell is we have amazing businesses, but the great thing is the businesses themselves aren't just amazing, it's the people who run them. You know, Mark Schmidt, like you mentioned, just a great guy in what he does. Jim Everett, I mean, you couldn't find a better human on the planet than Jim Everett. And so it's just neat to be associated with these people, their businesses, but learning how great they are. And that's what really makes their business so great is who they are.
The other thing I was just thinking, and it's just kind of a blend of everything else, but people don't realize that the Caldwell Hospital is HCA owns that. But it's interesting when you dig into the way hospitals run and function. That is their most profitable and busy and high quality hospital in their system, and I'll tell you that it's pretty amazing. So you kind of got everything out there with healthcare and employment. And now you look at, I do want to get into growth because I think the south part of Caldwell is now just driving right into to Nampa, and it is kind of one continuous community at some point here just because of all the growth we've experienced. Growth has two sides to it too, right?
Yep. Yes, it does. Just like anything else.
Back in 07, 08, we were all heroes for trying to do stuff, and now not so much, right? I think a lot of people have come here and said, hey, enough. But talk us through a little bit of getting to this point, and then what some of the future plans are, or some of the challenges you might have.
Yeah, and that's a great point, to bring up, to be able to discuss that. Because like you said, there are two sides of that. Back in, it's a great example, back in 07, 08, people were begging anything. We'll take whatever you got, bring it. And now it's kind of the reverse on that, very it's kind of like, hey, let's put the brakes on in this regards. And I understand, there's the concern. And people come, like growing up in Caldwell, right? People come up to me and said, you've been here a long time. There's people that have lived here their entire lives. What are their thoughts on these changes and this growth that we've experienced? When I was growing up, Caldwell was 20,000 people. And now we're 75,000 plus. And so it's changed a lot in that time frame. But it's something that we've really kept the character of Caldwell. And I think that's something you can do regardless of the size of the city as you grow. As long as you keep that character, keep that down home feel, then I think the people understand that. And to be honest, the majority of the people that I hear complain are the newer people in Caldwell in the last 5 to 10 years. And you still have some of those that have been there
that actually doesn't surprise me, though, because I think if you look at before Indian Creek kind of went from, being part of that downtown, and you look at everything shuttered up. And, I think back when we did the movie theater there,
Yep.
I mean, the movie theater had to be in, maybe 2010 maybe. But you think about, go back to those days, and you would walk around those streets, even though the creek was already kind of developed, and you had Treasure Valley Community College, right?
Yep.
Right across the way. There was still not a lot going on. And it's taken vision and planning to say, hey, let's create something where people want to come. So if you were part of that, or you were a Caldwell citizen then, you're probably like, this is one of the greatest transformations in America. I mean, you probably have people. I mean, I've had multiple people say, "How did Caldwell do it?" I mean, in the region, like, what's your best example of a city redefining itself? It's been Caldwell. So if you're on that side of it, you're like, "Oh my word!" You think of the business and the tax base that goes into our schools, and think of the place of community we have for people to raise their family and to stay, and the heritage. That's the good side of it. I do think it's maybe some of the later people that come that are like, hey, we're here now. We love this little place. Stop it. No more, right? So it'll always be that balance. And I think, as economies change and things change, it always comes and goes. But gosh, I can't imagine there's too much criticisms of what probably is the best ran development, vision, however you want to do it. I mean, Caldwell is the shining example.
Yeah, and I would agree, and that's a great point that you bring up with that, because those of us that lived through it,
Yeah.
we're so excited for what we have. And to be honest, I think we still have that small town charm, regardless of the
agree.
size we have. It's about the community. It's about the things you do within your community, the events that you have, and keeping the Caldwell Night Rodeo, the College of Idaho, the 4th of July parade,
Yeah.
and activities we have. That is what creates your community, regardless of the size. If it's 50,000, 500,000, or
Yeah.
5 million. You create those senses, those places, and people will come and have that feel.
Talk about a little bit about you. The one thing you've done well for 20 years, and you continue to do well, is you are at the forefront of attracting working jobs, like livable working jobs, and in a lot of ways, just kind of beating up on surrounding jurisdictions. You just did. I mean, and I think you continue to do so, right? A lot of that was with your vision for Sky Ranch. Some of that was the vision for your next big projects. You're actively getting companies, Idaho Grown and other companies coming here with livable wages to locate in Caldwell. Talk about how that's been and how that's going and what the future looks like.
Yeah, and that's a big part of vision and carrying out that vision that we've had. And I have to give a lot of credit to my predecessor. I know he's a good friend of yours, Garrett Nancolis, that had that vision. And he was mayor for 24 years, which you don't hear a lot about these days. I don't know, Andy. Again, kudos to him. After being in for almost 4 years, I don't know how you could do it for 24, but he had that vision and he carried it forward, regardless of the naysayers at the side. And so that helped tremendously to set it up where when I was able to come into office, that things were just running, and it's like, just don't screw it up when you get in there. Just keep things going. And I think we've done a really good job on that. But a lot of credit goes out to Garrett and to the former council as well that really helped set a lot of those things up to put them in motion for today.
Yeah. One of the things I know you've got a new program, your initiative, Caldwell Season of Caring. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so that kind of came up. We were having some discussion about, how can we create that positivity? Again, that down home feel, what we want to keep Caldwell. And so we talked about, how do we create more positivity in our community? And so it kind of started, we were blessed to have the giving machines in Caldwell this year, which was tremendous on that. And I mean, one of a few hundred, not even a few hundred, just 100 in the world to have that opportunity. And so we talked about, the season of giving, and that kind of blossomed into these, what we call our seasons of Caldwell. And so they are, specific points throughout the year where we're going to focus on something positive and try to get that out into the social media world, just have people share the great things they're doing. So the first one, what we're in right now, is our season of caring. And we're just encouraging people to do something that shows that you care. And, take a picture, do a video, put it out on your social media, and hashtag Caldwell Season of Caring. And then that way we can try to get some positivity out there, the great things that are happening. It's so easy to complain and put negative things out in the world today. But we need the positive. And so we've got the 4 seasons. Like I said, right now is the season of caring. In April, towards the end of April, it's going to be the season of service. And we're going to get the service clubs involved on that. And then in August, we're going to do the season of learning with the school getting back in session, and, Caldwell School District and Valley View School District, get them to partner and, getting, people to donate school materials for kids that don't have them that can get back to school, and just really excited to go back to school. And then wrapping it up with the season of giving again in December, just, opportunity to give back to the community in whatever way that is. And again, and the big thing is just, highlighting those great things. And again, I tell people it's not about showing how good you are, but encouraging others to follow your example. So do that picture, do that video, post it, hashtag it, Caldwell Season of whatever the season is at that time. Let's spread a little bit of positivity in the community.
That's incredible. So right now, I'm going through the season of caring. I love that. I love that. Talk a little bit more about the impact of the school districts, because one of the things, there's some legacy there. I know Roger Quarles was out there for a long time. Your schools, despite sometimes some challenges, you look at some of the demographics and funding and those sort of things, you've really done a great job in your public schools in Caldwell. Talk a little bit about how proud you are of those things.
Yeah, for sure. Schools are very important. And that comes up a lot. We had a city council meeting and schools came up in some of the requests that we were going forward there. And it's an important partnership that we have to have with the school districts. We are integral with Caldwell School District and Valley View School District as well, that encompass, the city. And so it's important for us to be a part of that, to know, what's going on in the schools, what are their needs, and then us to meet with with them and talk with them. And it's a tough thing because, we talked about growth and development, and that does affect our schools. They are getting overcrowded, and it's a very different dynamic from Caldwell School District, which I was a Caldwell High alum, proud of that. Go Cougs. My kids go to Ridgeview High School, which is part of the Valley View School District. So we're deeply entrenched with that as well. But it's just such a different dynamic between those two school districts. So Caldwell School District is really basically kind of enclosed. There's not much room to grow and things of that nature. Majority of the developments we see is in the Valley View School District. So Caldwell's enrollment has really stayed kind of stagnant for many, many years. And Valley View is just the opposite. Going back to when I grew up, Caldwell High, we were much bigger than Valley View High School, at least twice as big, I would say. And now Valley View has two high schools, and both of them are a lot bigger than the one Caldwell High School. And so it's just such a different dynamic. And, how do you plan for that? And it's difficult to kind of figure that out. Some state funding would be great, and hopefully they can kind of figure something out at the legislature. We'll see. But, the bonds are difficult to pass these days with that 2/3 majority, and that really hamstrings the Valley View School District a lot with some overcrowding. They were able to get some bonds passed recently, which is great to get 2 new elementary schools. But with the growth we continue to see, we need to continue going down that road and providing, that's our future right there. And so we got to provide for them.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. We've been discovered. Mm-hmm. This thing is not slowing down. So whether from Caldwell, the other thing interesting about Caldwell, you don't realize that you're kind of the gateway in from the west into the Treasure Valley. And so you're entrapment area, or I don't know what they call it, like in healthcare, they call it entrapment area or whatever. It's like a referral area to the hospital. You've got all these smaller communities, really all the way till you get over to Fruitland, Ontario. There's a dividing line where a lot of that just comes to you, right? So I remember when you look at those studies of where those dollars go, a lot of that comes into Caldwell, and it's your first entry in. So you've got that. All those communities are growing.
Yep.
It's crazy to go even out to some of those smaller communities. People are moving in all over from California and other places, and you can go out there and live in this beautiful country. Some of the most beautiful country in Idaho is kind of Caldwell, around that back end of southwest Idaho. And that's growing. Caldwell's growing, kind of connecting with Nampa now. How do you plan for infrastructure, and how do you plan for all of the other needs with education? And it's a balance, right? Because you got property tax, and there's just all of these different factors. And being the mayor, you're the guy that's like, okay, how are we going to manage all this?
Yeah, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of balls in the air, and so trying to make sure you don't forget about the ones that are coming down and keep them up in the air. And it's a difficult thing, the people, it's funny, you hear about, we want more grocery stores, we want more retail, we want all these things, but we don't want any more houses. It's like, well, if you stop the houses, you're not going to get the grocery stores, and the ones that are open may close because they don't have the new customers coming in. And so it's, I think a lot of it is education, teaching people like, you're going to have some growing pains, but with that comes all these great things. We get hammered a lot because, of property taxes, and they're, significantly high. And so it's like, well, how do you offset that? Our sales tax is very low. The amount of sales tax we get from the state is probably less than half what Nampa gets, and they're not double our size. But it's because there's a lot more shopping opportunities in Nampa. And so we're trying to attract those to Caldwell to increase our sales tax dollars.
Talk about that, because I think people, not to go into this too much, but there's kind of the three stools of taxes, right? Income tax, sales tax, and property tax. That's how everything's paid for. And whether anyone likes it or not, government needs to be funded for the things it does. And there's things that it does. Like you just brought up roads, services, police, fire, gels, schools. All of these things have to be funded, and that's really the three ways it's done. But if you look at sales tax, it is like in a city like Caldwell, when that leakage happens to Costco in Nampa, or that leakage happens to Target in Nampa, or you're just right there on the border, all of those sales tax don't proportionally come back to you, right?
Yeah. Yep, correct.
So if you start looking at, okay, how does all this stuff get funded? It is through property tax is your major thing, unless you have those other services that then bring in more taxes on the sales tax side. And that's what I think you probably try to explain to a lot of your citizens is it is a balance, and you kind of need to have a vision or a plan for all these things to create the base that you need to be able to cover a lot of these things. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I would say so, exactly on that. And so, it can be a big deal. It's, several $1 million that we miss out on that we're trying to attract that in. And the great thing about sales tax is it's a portion is from your community, but a portion is from outside. So it's people that are visiting Caldwell. So now instead of going to Nampa and giving them your sales tax dollars, we can keep it in Caldwell and get other people from around the community.
And
to pay
imagine
too.
where you're positioned, right? You could be that next first place, which is, I think, what you're becoming.
Yep, no, it's true. I know I had some friends that their parents live in Nissa, and so they drive to Costco in Nampa to go do their shopping and then go back home. And so if we can create more shop opportunities in Caldwell, we're that stop, for the Fruitlands, the Nissas, the Ontarios, whatever that is, they're coming to Caldwell instead of passing us and going to the next city down the road.
Can you talk a little bit about big growth areas for you right now in Caldwell, where some of that explosive growth is still happening and you see it happening in the next 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 areas I would say. Sky Ranch is still growing tremendously, and there's still a good chunk of land between what I'd say Sky Ranch, which is just kind of off of the freeway, and 2026 out towards, Ridgeview High School on that. So Ridgeview is kind of the outskirts of Nampa, the very edge. And everything to the west of there is Caldwell Impact Area. Yeah. And so there's still a lot of ground out there to be developed and being very interested in that. And as city services extend that way, you're starting to see a lot of that go. And that's a great corridor. It's going to connect obviously into Nampa, Meridian, and Boise. Lots of commercial growth going on out there, which is going to attract a lot of residential coming as well. So that's a very hot area still, and still a good amount of land out there. And then over off of Highway 55 as well, Karcher Road. There's been some big developments approved out there. They're starting to take off. Sewer and water's getting down there.
Well, many people may not drive that route, but if you do, I mean, you think back to even 8 or 9 years ago, it is dramatic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid driving to Karcher Mall, we lived out kind of that part of town, so we'd go up Karcher, and it was it was so much different than what it is today.
That entire corridor is just booming, and much of that is Caldwell being your impact area. I think there's going to be some more commercial out there. There's some other great stuff going on out there for you, and that is, people do. I mean, growth's. You probably hear it all the time, and I'm a developer, so you get hammered for growth, but I think infill growth that takes advantage of existing infrastructure and utilities, that is the kind of growth we ought to be looking at. That corridor, that's infill, right? And so, and to your other point, over on the other side by Sky Ranch, over to where you hit into Nampa, that's infill. So in a lot of ways, that stops sprawl from going out into foothills and farmlands and other things is just exactly the way it's supposed to be going. And I think one of the things, we've done a lot of work with Caldwell over the last 20 years, but you seem to be, your public works department, your vision for kind of how to plan this thing, you're kind of playing chess where a lot of jurisdictions are playing checkers, right? You've kind of thought this out, and I want to talk about your teams and how much planning goes into this, because you're kind of ready for it.
Yeah, and the team is so important, as you know, right? Yeah. If you're going to have a successful business, it doesn't matter how good and great you are. If you don't have great people below you, you will never succeed. And that's, at Caldwell, we pride ourselves in that. We have an incredible, what I'd call our executive team, our public works director, police, fire chiefs, our HR director, our planning and zoning director, and the list goes on. Everybody there, our economic development director, just great people too. So they're doing great work, and they're good people. And that's, a big part of it is planning that out, knowing, where's these roads going to need to go? Where's a new well going to go for the city? Those different types of things. Make sure you have capacity at your sewer plant. And so they've done a great job of planning that out and preparing for it. There's still things that come up. You're going to have hiccups along the way, and we learn from those. And then we, do the best we can and continue to move on. And great thing, when those hiccups happen is the relationships that we have with the community, with the development community. Say, look, maybe something caught us here. We need to kind of fix this. And they're great to reach up and partner with us on that to kind of get through those hurdles or struggles that may pop up. And then it really benefits everybody at the end of the day. It benefits the city, the community development, it benefits the citizens. So just working together and overcoming those obstacles when they do pop up.
Super, super well said. That's awesome. Hey, when are you up again for your... Is it now?
It is now. Well, November. Yep.
Is it?
So, yep,
is it this year?
It is this year.
Man, it goes by so fast.
It does.
Honestly, I was just looking down at my notes. I'm like, oh, it's this year.
It is. Yep. So we're already gearing up. So I am definitely running again. There's so many things going on in Caldwell that I want to make sure we get to the finish line. And so I'm excited for another.
The 4 years go fast for you?
They did. They really, really did. So there's some days it's like, man, it feels like it's been forever, but it's gone by so fast. I can't believe that we're here already at this time. So.
Oh, well, they're lucky to have you. You've done a tremendous job. I think, you come in after a guy like Garrett, been there a long time, and there's probably you want to be your own guy, and you want to do your own thing. You probably had your own ideas of how to take this thing, and it's you've done an incredible job of saying, "Hey, that guy was great, and here's my turn." Right? That's got to be kind of a delicate thing. Did you come in?
Yeah, and it was.
I look at Robert
So-
did the same thing behind Tammy,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think her 20 years, right? So, and he's kind of dealt with that. But how's that been?
It's been really good, and it was, like you said, coming in, it was different, and because you come in, and even with all the great things, that Garrett did, and like I said, I'd worked for the city,
Yeah.
so I'd seen that and been a part of some of that. You still want to carry on that, but also you have your own kind of thoughts and
Yeah.
ideas that you want to bring forward, and so it was a little. The dynamic was a little difficult at first, but Garrett's a great guy, and we
he's
have a
great.
great relationship, and we still talk, quite often. And he opened that up, said, "Anytime you need to talk, let me know." And I didn't for the first while. I wanted to kind of set my
Yeah.
own pace, but this last year or two, I've really reached out to him a lot, and it's nice to have somebody who's been through so much to kind of help you.
He's an incredible guy, right? I mean, just a good guy, and but also it's probably pretty personal if it's been like your baby for 24 years, and then there's someone else coming in, and I mean it's just the nature of the deal, right? I remember talking to Mayor Simison about that. I mean, it just is. It's just part of it. So now it's your baby, and you're 4 years in, and now you get to do it again.
Yep.
How's the council been?
So it's been good. There's different dynamics that come into that regards, and that really boils down, in my opinion, to respect. Definitely do not agree with the council all the time, and there's some things that I wish went different regards, and the way that things were things that were said or how they were handled. But at the end of the day, you just got to show respect. They were elected that position, whether I agree or disagree with them. At the end of the day, just try to show respect and compassion.
Well, and most of the time, I mean, I think of, again, been doing this for a long, long time, and we do it in all jurisdictions, but you'll have most of the time, people follow people, and you have a really strong leader from Caldwell. You love this place, you want to do the right thing, and then you get these councils that they also are passionate people that want to do it their way, right? And as long as you, like, one of the lines that I've always used, give me someone that's a critical thinker, that can look at data and that can understand people and what's best for people, and most of the time you come together pretty quickly. Every once in a while, and I saw it happen a couple times over the years, you'll get just a knucklehead that doesn't really look at data and is not critically thinking and just wants to drop a bomb somewhere. And that's tough, but they don't usually last very long, because I think authenticity wins, and people that are genuine and doing it for the right reason. And most of the time we come together on things that matter to communities, even if we disagree a little bit. But every once in a while,
yes, that's very accurate.
every once in a while, it happens. And man, you have a great group of mayors right now in this valley too.
Yeah, I really do, and we all get along really well, regardless of our political views. Mayor's nice because it's nonpartisan, and we get along really, really well. Work great together, all the way.
And you've been in now long enough, between you and Debbie and Robert and Mayor Evans, and then Mayor McLean. I mean, that's the stretch of this valley. Oh, and Mayor Steer and then can't forget Starr. I mean, Starr's booming.
Yeah, and Mayor Chadwick, he's a
Mayor
great guy.
Chadwick's a great
He's a
guy.
character. I
He's a
love
character.
talking to him. So he's
a
fun
great
to
guy.
talk
But
to.
I mean, you get a good group of people that are hearts in the right place, really great leaders, and we're kind of in a really. People ask me all the time about growth. I mean, that's just what we get, and most of the time it's in a negative connotation, because it's like, hey, what do you think? And you're part of the problem. And what's going on? And I'm like, well. Part of the thing is when you have Micron do what they're doing, and when you have big companies coming here that are founded here that have really great jobs, I always remind people that if you go back 2 decades ago, I was on all these boards, on the United Way board for a while, and you were talking all the time about how do we keep our kids here. I mean, that was like like our kids are leaving, we need to have jobs. Well, now you have industry in the Treasure Valley and in Idaho where your kids can come here. Now it's harder for them to afford a house because there's been a disparate increase in housing prices over wages, but they have really good livable wages compared to other places, and they have options in careers in almost every avenue right now. So that box has been checked for families in Idaho, for my kids, for your kids, for their kids, for the generations that are coming. Now the hard thing is, okay, how do we manage growth? How do we do it in a way that, because they're going to come here. I mean, people are going to come here. They're just going to come here.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the greatest place on the planet Earth to be and live in community for every one of the reasons that we love this place. And why wouldn't people come here? They're fleeing the coast in droves. A lot of places that are like us in the Intermountain West are filling up, and Boise and this valley's next. So anyway, I think the answer is we got to try to work together. And the answer I give, that was a long statement to get to the point. I always say, look at our leadership. We have great local leadership. Look at all up and down this. There's some things to figure out, and they're big and they're challenging, but we have great local leadership. You look at even our representatives. I know our legislature, gets a bad rap sometimes, and there's a balance, but we have really good people in those positions that are doing the best they can. And I think that's what you do, is you try to get good people in big, important positions that authentically want to lead and serve, and you work with them, and you may not agree on everything, but you try to do the best for the people you serve. And we're in a really good shape. I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, I appreciate bringing up the legislature on that. I had the opportunity to serve in the legislature as well, and love to use that experience also. And, I have some very dear friends still from the legislature, and we definitely disagreed on a lot of things. But at the end of the day, we could respect each other, because I knew that they were really doing it for their community, what they felt those people want. It wasn't for them, regardless if you agree or disagree with them. Their heart, for the most part, and again, you said you do have those bad apples that come in occasionally, but they weed themselves out over time.
They do.
The people that are there that really care are going to be there. And you may disagree with what they care about, but they may disagree what you care about. And so again, it's that respect for each other on what you really believe is best for your community.
And frankly, it's what makes this the country we live in. And I mean, it is differing opinions of people coming together, trying to figure out and learning from each other. It's just great. What are some other exciting things in Caldwell that you look for in the coming years? Our time went by really fast, but tell us what you're looking forward to besides the election in November.
I'm looking forward to that being over, and hopefully on the right side of the coin.
No one's going to challenge you there.
But I'm super excited, for that opportunity again, just to showcase the great things we're doing. But there is so much great. If you went if we had a time machine, you went back 5-10 years from now, and looked at Caldwell, you wouldn't recognize it today, the downtown. Yeah. And so that's we obviously want to keep that. But the thought is, even if you were able to go forward 5 years, you wouldn't recognize it today. We have to continue to evolve. We can't just, when I came in, I know we had all these great things. Indian Creek Plaza just opened, the Winter Wonderland, everything's so much going on in Caldwell. If we just kick back and said, this is great, let's just enjoy the view, then we're going to be behind the next year. And so that's been the goal, is just to continue doing great things. And so that, 5 years from now, you don't recognize it, because it's even blossomed even more to what we're doing. And so there's some great projects coming into Caldwell, some new hotel that's going to be under construction here soon, which is great. We do have 2 hotels there, but they're max capacity the majority of the time. We don't have places for people to stay, so then that helps the sales tax again and the room tax that comes into Caldwell. Continue to grow the Caldwell Night Rodeo. Continue to partner with the College of Idaho. We have great partnership there, and just ideas of things that make it even better, enhancing their sports programs. They are one of the, people don't realize this, but they are one of the best sports schools in the country. They're NAIA level, so they don't get as much recognition as the bigger schools. But I'll walk around with my College of Idaho National Championship sweatshirt on from the college basketball team a few years ago, and people are like, College of Idaho, what's that? And so I'm able to tell them about it. And they have the track team won the cross country team won national championship, and then another one. And so they are doing phenomenal things. And so I think that we're going to continue to grow that, see some exciting things happening out at our Caldwell Event Center, just some other really neat things coming in Caldwell. That's the goal. 5 years from now, like, wow, I didn't even know this was coming. And now look what we got here in Caldwell.
Well, you're a great leader, and we're lucky to have you lead one of the most important cities here in Idaho and in the Valley, growing like crazy. It's just it's always good to work with you and see the great things you're doing in the community. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Well, my pleasure, and appreciate you as well and the great things you do in our community.
Thanks, everybody.